Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special episode of the Imperial HoloNet. I'm GID123,
And I'm Nero Cole.
and today Nero Cole has brought us to my attention a very special discussion that he wishes to discuss. What is the topic?
So, a lot of people in a bunch of different series always think that a series has gotten to a point that where there is no returning from the point that you have gotten. Basically, where a series has gotten so bad that it's unsalvageable at this point. So that is the topic today. When does a series get so bad that it is unsalvageable?
I would say the simple answer is when nothing you do can make sense anymore, and it's just too late.
Yeah, and I think the first thing we'll start with this on kind of a simple note. Let me ask you this, Joel. What happens when a story is just treading along and there isn't much of a story to tell?
Ooh, that's what I call it gets repetitive and boring. That's when I stop watching. There are a lot of TV series that have done that. But many of them episodic, so they don't really have an overarching story. They just have been
Yeah,
around for too long. Like SpongeBob, that's been around for too long.
yeah.
Once Upon a Time seems to be one of those shows now that's slowly running out of ideas. Although
Mm-hmm.
I think Once Upon a Time lost its edge after season one, sadly, because its overarching arc for that first season, which seemed to be
Mm-hmm.
which the commercials and promos made out to be that's what the entire series is all about. They stopped that arc and wrapped it up. So they
And
kind of
that
gave up their magnum. I don't know. Their kind of
their main idea for the show, basically.
yeah, pretty much by the first season. Now the second season had promise, and then it. Well, the problem with Once Upon a Time, it has trouble making up its mind sometimes. Like one season starts
Her,
off like in one direction, then it seems like halfway the writers decide, we want to do something else now. We're set for another season.
and I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of times that's what I think causes a lot of the issues that lead to a show or a series becoming unsalvageable. Basically, when they can't make up their mind about what story they even want to tell. Like, if any of you follow my Twitter, you know I have a love-hate relationship with a little series called Girls of the Wild. That series was great for the first 80 chapters. After that 80 chapters was up, it had no idea what kind of overarching story it wants. And then it just became a mere collection of scenes. And that was really a shame because I really, really liked it. And I still follow it, but it's it's getting to the point where I have to wait chapters and chapters on end before I can read again to enjoy it.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating myself personally that you need to plot point every little detail of your arc. Just
Yeah.
have a broad idea of what you want to do. I'm going to be plugging my Kingdom Hearts series all
Mm-hmm.
day because I've just been writing that thing. I've been mixing stuff up. Like, I've been trying to figure out certain character arcs and stuff, but I think I have a good idea of what I want to do. At least, okay, it's weird. I feel like I'm Namor now because I have a good idea what I want to do for the first season, which is based off the first game, which is the easiest one to write because,
Yeah.
it's the first game. That has, like, the most classic arc.
Straightforward story there is. There isn't really that many twists or turns in it.
It's when I get to the second season when I start implementing Chain of Memories and Kingdom Hearts 2. That's when
Yeah.
I start getting a little confused of what exactly I want to do. I have ideas in mind and still an overarching plot, but I'm just not sure on the execution part. But enough about me. We can actually talk about Kingdom Hearts actually, because there's a series that I don't want to say Kingdom Hearts is unsalvageable
I don't think
just
it's
yet.
gotten too bad. It has the potential to go that route though, depending because if any of you have watched our video of our problems and issues with the Kingdom Hearts series, you know that Dream Drop Distance for both Joel and I is a very it's an odd game for both Joel and I.
Oh yeah, like I have no problem with some of the concepts they're leading up to for what
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be, or what they say it's going to be. You never know.
Mhm.
But they added time travel into Kingdom Hearts, and they made Xehanort pretty much God at this point.
And by the way, speaking of time travel, that's an easy way for a series to become really unsalvageable. Now, I'll add one thing
With the
that
exception of Doctor Who.
yes,
Well, Doctor Who's its own little weird case.
Yeah. The thing about time travel is if it's both a gift and a curse. It's a really convoluted idea and a one that many people have different takes on. But you can also run the route of doing the Days of Future Past thing of rewriting some of your own universe to back to the standard that it once was.
Right. I agree with you on that. That's a weird time travel because I'm a big Doctor Who fan, and to be fair, what Stephen Moffat has done recently with Doctor Who, the show's not unsalvageable because Doctor Who's such a show that it can be really anything, and you can easily ignore continuity.
Yeah.
That's a whole other story for me. But Doctor Who's a story show just about guy travels in space and time, has an adventure. Maybe he changes history, maybe he doesn't. Then he goes off and has another adventure. So it's a pretty simple concept. It's like Star Trek, with time travel.
Yeah.
But when shows are linear and they have progression, hopefully, um, that's when time travel gets a little convoluted or scary, especially when you
Mhm.
start rebooting things using time travel or doing DC Infinite Crises. Um, well, I never read Infinite Crisis, so I don't know. I know the DC. I would love to see the DC Cinematic Universe have an Infinite Crisis right now. Um,
Let me ask you this, Joel.
yeah.
What happens when you have a story that is running in a linear format, whether it be long running or whatever, but then they start branching off into different stories? Don't you think that's also territory to get to a point where it can get pretty unsalvageable when they start plowing different stories to the point where you don't know what connects to what anymore?
Are you talking more like an expanded universe kind of thing, or
Yes. So this is a good point to talk about Star Wars, and this is kind of what I wish Red was here, but
well, the Star Wars expanded universe so far has always kind of been pretty stable.
yeah.
They're it's pretty easy. It's always kind of always had a very. It's always pretty been consistent. I don't think it's that convoluted.
But
Well,
isn't that the key word here? That it's consistent. If it wasn't consistent, it could easily run the course of
oh
being
yeah,
unsalvageable.
oh yeah. Totally, totally. Well, that's sort of the weird thing about when it comes to the expanded universe of Star Wars, especially if you follow the trends. Nothing contradicts anything, which is why Splinter of the Mind's Eye still works for the most part, so I've been told. But when you read like '90s expanded universe post Return of the Jedi stuff, you can tell the prequels hadn't come out yet in terms of just like
Yeah.
cloning, because cloning was all over the place. Especially, and then the prequels came, and then I don't know really what the big difference was cloning in the prequel era, but they introduced cloning as well. But they
Yeah.
brought in stuff like Coruscant, and, Exar Kun came back as an old Jedi from the old times, and they managed to connect Revan and Darth Bane with those eras as well. So,
Yeah. Speaking of Star Wars, I think it's also interesting to bring up what I think a lot of people probably thought probably happened with the films, with the prequels, that they had gotten to a point where a lot of people didn't like them. They're Star Wars films, but critically, they aren't well received films. So, don't you think it could have been very easily that we got another Star Wars movie that could by George Lucas if he eventually caved in, and we had gotten another really terrible movie? And
probably.
that might have even further cemented the nail in the coffin of Star Wars, and thankfully the deal with Disney managed to lift that. And this is also another thing I want to lift up. If you're near the point where it's unsalvageable, how do you save yourself?
Ooh, well, okay. Here's a weird thing, because it's funny because Star Wars seems to save itself movie wise, but Indiana Jones just keeps going forward.
Yeah,
Although to be fair, I don't think Indiana Jones is unsalvageable.
yeah.
People hate Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but I'm gonna be honest. I don't think it's that bad as people make it out to be. It's not
I don't think so
great.
either.
I don't think it's not great. I don't think it's that bad. It's not like when I saw it, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. It felt like an Indiana Jones movie.
Mhm.
LaBeouf ruins it, of course. Shia LaBeouf, I don't like him. Harrison Ford, old Harrison Ford's fine. I don't even hate the aliens, honestly. I
Yeah,
honestly
I don't think
think,
that either. That concept could actually
I
work.
think Aliens is, I'm going to quote Bill Wurster here, aka Zazubar. He said that Aliens was the most natural progression you could do with Indiana Jones, especially if you set it in the 50s. Because the 50s was the big time of the spacemen,
Mm-hmm.
That's when, we were going to space. That was Yuri Gagarin and the Soviet Union launched the Sputnik. Sputnik,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. So that made sense. But the thing is, I think the thing is that oh, right here. The thing is though, there's things like Star Wars and even Kingdom Hearts for a good example. Since it's still by the same guy, and Indiana Jones though, but Indiana Jones at least moved forward, which I think is why I didn't suffer as much.
Mm-hmm.
When you go back, and the thing about going back is you run the risk then of making simplicity more convoluted.
Yeah.
And that's like the problem with Burst by Sleep, and I like Burst by Sleep of Kingdom Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And the prequels, to an extent, although the expanded universe sort of definitely helps smooth that all out,
Right.
and the concepts make sense.
Yeah.
Like seeing the Republic turn to the Empire, that makes sense because the Empire pretty much wrecked the economy, and that's why everything in the Star Wars galaxy is all no longer nice and shiny. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Jedi being too too into politics. That's why their downfall. That all makes sense. The concepts don't make sense. I think it's more of just a case of concepts over execution in that case.
Yeah.
Um, oh, sorry, Cole. Did you want to say something?
And back onto what you said about Nomura. Nomura has been on the Kingdom Hearts series since the beginning, I believe. I could be wrong, but I think he's been on it since the beginning. And the thing about Nomura is he was big on. He is most known for creating the characters of Final Fantasy VII, like Cloud, Aerith, and all of them. He is the character designer for those characters.
Right.
That was one of his first big projects. And the thing about him in the Final Fantasy series, all the Final Fantasy games are set in different worlds. They are all different stories, allowing him to grow. And Nomura with the Kingdom Hearts series has kind of had to stay within the lines a little bit, which is kind of thwarting the creativity a little bit.
I wouldn't say it's thwarting the create. Well, maybe it is. Maybe I'm not saying it's completely thwarting creativity. I just think
It's getting
I think he needs to delegate his writing to other
yes.
people who are actually who enjoy the stuff. Like
I think I think the Kingdom Hearts series needs to be a collaborative effort.
Oh, I think it does too. Oh, to be fair, I'm single-handedly writing a Kingdom Hearts series by myself. Uh, but that's fan fiction for you. Although I have been asking people for help, so that's the thing. I would likely like some co-writers.
Yeah.
But that's another story. If you're watching, I'm contact me, call me. But yeah, I think that's the thing with Star Wars as well, especially in terms of the original trilogy. Although that just might be because George Lucas was always a bit of his ideas. He's more of an ideas guy than the director, and by the
Right.
time the '90s, 2000s came, he kind of lost his directing swag. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing about Star Wars has always been it's always been a collaborative effort. With the exception of even A New Hope was a collaborative effort. Like he went to Spielberg and who did The Shining? Who did The Shining?
What's his name?
Kubrick.
Yeah.
He went to Kubrick. He went to Spielberg. Gary Kurtz was with him at the time. They kind of all helped George. And Empire Strikes Back. He didn't direct that. That was hang on, let me look him up. I know this Gary. No, it's not Gary Kurtz. Irvin Kershner
Yes, Irvin
and
Kershner.
Lawrence Kasdan. They wrote and direct. Well, George wrote the second script. Because the first script was written by some lady, and then and then Kasdan wrote the final script, and then Irvin Kershner came, and the reason why Empire is so good, I believe, is not. I'm sure Lucas had his fingers in Empire, but he
Right.
didn't have his fingers that much in, say, A New Hope and Jedi. And the reason why Empire is so good is because of Kershner's his atmosphere that he gives to the movie,
Yeah.
and Kasdan's very good dialogue and his natural dialogue, and it's just being able to make the story flow.
This is a little off of what we're talking about, but it's still in the vein of what we're talking about. And also, getting a collaborative effort allows you to get more stances on your characters, and that's the thing with a lot of stories that become so derailed that they're unsalvageable.
Not necessarily. I mean, Arrow has multiple writers too.
That's a different case. But I mean, in the sense that you need fresh blood on getting fresh blood on your characters can provide some good insight to show you what you can improve on.
Right, and I'm not saying, throw out. Well, like we did throw out George, but that's not the. But that we kind of had to because George is known for a bit to be over
Yeah.
controlling. But if I heard Ron Howard might have was originally thought of to direct episode one, and even if they used George's script, imagine how that would have gone if Ron Howard had directed episode one.
Yeah.
Just from a visualizing standpoint. In fact, I'm sorry, I'm derailing this conversation, but I just wanted to talk about this since I think it's interesting. That's actually one of the reasons I think Indiana Jones 4 isn't as bad as, say, other bad movies, is because Steven Spielberg is directing, and I feel Spielberg. I think Spielberg is. I don't think he's lost it. I think he's kind of gotten a little too iffy at times, but I think he's still a good enough director where he was able to salvage that film.
Well, let me ask you this: has George Lucas made any other films recently?
I think his last movie was some weird animated thing a while back. Let me check. The only thing George has done was the Clone Wars television series, and he was just an executive producer.
Yeah. So the thing about Steven Spielberg, he's still making films.
Well, yeah, he's Big Friendly Giant's coming out. I don't know if that looks good.
And also, he made Bridge of Spies.
Oh yeah, and you just watched Bridge of Spies.
I did watch Bridge of Spies. Even though I didn't care for that movie, it's still a well-made movie. He still has passion. He still has a passion for making movies, at least.
Right. Okay, his last movie was Revenge of the Sith, which he directed, but he wrote a film called Strange Magic.
Okay.
It's an animated movie. I'll send it to you in the chat.
Okay. Another point onto characters, like we were talking about before. That is another root cause of why a lot of things become unsalvageable, is because the characters just aren't their characters anymore. Now, let me be clear about something. There is such a thing as character growth, and then there is such a thing as character rewrites. They are two completely different things.
Right. I especially, I'm not someone who believes that just because you created something doesn't mean you exclusively own it. And, well, okay, I'll take that back. I believe that with certain franchises, like Star Wars, especially Star Wars, since the whole EU thing, Star Wars, even before his retirement, sort of almost outgrew George Lucas.
Yeah.
And, well, I'm not someone who hates the prequels because, they're not how I would have done Star Wars, or I'm not saying they're not my Star Wars. They are George's Star Wars. I still feel that even so, Star Wars has grown beyond the point where you can say, oh, well, if George Lucas says it's okay, then that's okay because, he owns Star Wars. I think that Star Wars has to... it can grow, it can be anything. I agree with Red on that totally, make it anything, but it still has to follow a certain rule set, maybe. This is kind of weird because I feel like I don't want to bind Star Wars and say, oh, if you don't do A, B, and C, you're not Star Wars. Like, you can have a Star Wars movie without a lightsaber duel in it. Like, that's what Rogue One's going to be like. But I'm thinking you need to follow a certain tone. Well, maybe not even tone, but necessarily you need to have the atmosphere and a certain...
You need to at least show us we're in the same universe.
Yes, that's a big thing. And, well, okay, I would say the prequels did that.
Yeah, I would say that.
I think that they did that, but I think that just because George said something doesn't make it his Star Wars. Like, I feel like Star Wars has transcended to the point where it has to follow certain rules.
Yeah, I would agree.
The universe has sort of, in this very weird, artistic way, morphed into and created.
Yeah.
And back to what you were talking about, characters. Let's go to Kingdom Hearts again because that's something I feel like we can both talk about more without feeling guilty. Red here talking about Star Wars, that I would have actually loved to see different writers takes or enhancing the growth of Sora, Riku, and Kairi.
Yeah.
I read fan fiction a lot of Kingdom Hearts sometime, and when I find good stuff, I actually kind of like the way they characterize Sora, Riku, and Kairi, or Nomura in some cases.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And the other thing about, and this is in my broad, I won't make this just about Kingdom Hearts in general. It's when the other case scenario is when you dub down character interactions so much to the point where they're talking about things abstractly, to the point where you're not talking about things as they're happening. So you're just talking about destiny, hope, and all this. But what does that? But the thing is, you're not talking about what that really means in a context.
It's too speechifying. It's too
yes,
like it's not. They're not having a conversation. They're like I hate bringing up like Kingdom Hearts and it's sort of like I don't know. I'm writing, so maybe this is the best example. Sort of like I'm sorry I'm bringing this back to Kingdom Hearts, but this is sort of too easy. Too easy.
Yeah, it's too easy with Kingdom Hearts.
But it's sort of like yeah, it's sort of like I like to do it where it starts out as a conversation, like hey, how you doing? I'm good. He's relaxing on the beach. They're just talking about random stuff, and then maybe in the middle, you can use this for anything really. It's sort of like Batman and Superman can sit down and have a conversation about hot dogs or just having a good day, and then
at least show us that they're people,
and then sprinkle in some big destiny or with great power comes great responsibility thing.
Exactly, but have a context to ground that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's and sometimes what I see in a lot of stories is that they aren't grounding their ideas in a real world setting, which is kind of what happens sort of in Batman and Superman.
Yeah, definitely. My problem is they're not. It's sort of everybody's problem. They're not people. They're and to be fair,
and they're inconsistent.
Well, and to be fair, the DC characters are supposed to be gods, but they're trying to be gods, trying to be people.
Yeah.
So they have to be people. And that's what I like about characters. Is like to me, I'm okay with stories that have people in them. I like people.
Yeah.
Like I don't need you. I mean, you can be smart, but I'm talking about the kind of smart where everything's about like a great theme or destiny. Like sometimes I just want to see a story where two people are talking about stuff.
And a lot of times but that's the thing. You get more simplistic stories, and that happens more in an episode format because you get to see people acting like people. For example, if you don't have episodes in a show where people are just around doing normal day life activities, which I'll talk to Red about on the next video, where a lot of characters just feel like they feel so out there that I don't know if I'm supposed to find them relatable or even care about them.
I know, and well, to be fair, you don't need. Well, yeah, I guess you're right. I was gonna say you don't need relatable characters.
If you don't,
you need to latch onto them, though.
You need to be able to latch onto them, though. They don't necessarily need to be relatable, but you need a reason to care about them.
Right.
Because if you don't care about the characters, why do you care about the story that's happening?
Are you a fan of sitcoms?
Sometimes.
Okay. I'm a big fan of sitcoms. Everybody loves Raymond, Seinfeld, Married with Children. I'm a big fan of Married with Children. I don't know. It's a show I like. Maybe they're not the best examples to use for writing. Because those shows are just fun. But I enjoy them because they're people. Okay, they're crazy people. They're over the top, but
there's a certain charm to that,
Yeah, I mean, Al Bundy is the gullible loser, everyman who suffering from.
And another idea, just spinning off of that, is when a show tries to be more than what it is. And I find a lot of times that's when it starts losing steam and starts becoming an incomprehensible mess.
Oh, yeah.
And that arguably is what Kingdom Hearts has become.
Especially when you add time travel.
I hate this, and I know I'm going to get a lot of people that say, oh, you're just hating gang up on Kingdom Hearts. I really love Kingdom Hearts, people.
I love Kingdom Hearts. I'm writing a dang TV series trying to take all those concepts and make them good, or execute them better. And that's what I'm doing in Kingdom in TV series format.
Yeah.
Although, okay, let me ask you this though, since we're talking about TV series format for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah, Daredevil season 1 is a TV series, but it acts more like a movie,
Yeah.
just chopped into 13 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But we still see growth through that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I like I kind of lost my thought there. My thought there. Shoot, I'm going to say something else. Um, what do you think? What do you think has more potential to derail a story that's episodic or a story with an overarching arc?
Well, they could. Well, both of those can be in the same vein.
Right.
Um, I would say if you mean by episodic and you're going the Gotham approach,
I'm thinking more, Phineas and Ferb cartoons, Agent Shields.
well,
Agent Shields.
from what I gather from Gotham, from watching Geek Evolution, it's just become it's a bunch of random scenes that don't add to amount of anything.
I think they have an arc, but they don't.
Um, that's what I find is very. I think the episodic approach is very. And also the episodic approach can mean different things because there's the episodes like Star Wars approach where they're all individual stories tacked into one, and there's an overarching story in that episode, but it all very much depends, and that's going to be what a lot of this boils down to, is that it depends a lot of the time, but a lot of time, from what I see...
Here's a better example, I'm sorry. Anime. Let's talk about anime,
Yeah.
probably a better example, because I know animes that are just like, next episode, we're moving the plot, we're
Yeah.
just going, and then we have other animes where it's like, beach episode, this random event, day in the life, and then sometimes you get story, day in the life, story. You know what I'm saying?
And I'm glad you brought that up because this is a big point. I'm glad you brought the anime side up. Fan service in anime is a very big point where I feel like that can kill a story really badly.
I've had trouble watching even the good ones with too much a fan service.
Because
I can't look at that all day.
There's jugs there. There's abs. Okay, that was cool to look at for a little bit. So can we move on from that now? It's when it just and the other issue is when they don't even deal with the morality of that anymore.
No. Gosh, no. There's just points when they're doing shots of the you-know-what just because they want to. They don't even talk about it.
Yeah.
It's not an artistic reason. It's just, there it is. Do what you want, nerds.
But the funny thing to bring that up, I'm going to probably get a lot of people that are going to turn off after I say this, but bear with me. For something like High School DxD, where that's pretty much all it is, that is the core of the story. That is the reason why things are happening a good amount of time. The fan service is a part of that story. It's integrated heavily in it.
Right.
So there can be – I'm not saying there aren't reasons for them to happen, but a lot of the time they're just really brainless and pointless. A good example of this is Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail really is very – it's hit or miss with its fan service. Sometimes it's good. A lot of times it's in your face, and sometimes it's insulting how bad it is.
Right.
And here's another thing I'm going to spin off by talking about this, and we'll go on to the derailing thing again. And that is there's a chapter, I think 322 Fairy Tail, where we see a main character, Urza Scarlet, and Natsu almost in a very sexual position. And Urza is one of the strongest women in that series, and just seeing her like that, I'm like, why did we need to see that? It's not for any reason at all other than for fan service, and that just spits in the face of that character, and I can't stand stuff like that. To spring this off into another thing, when you start spitting in the face of what the character was supposed to be, I think that has the chance to start showing signs of unsalvaging.
Oh yeah. I want to go back on salvaging in terms of creativity for a moment because I got a whole spiel now that I remembered. Stephen Moffat. Oh boy. Stephen Moffat, 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 Moffat. Oh, my little Moffat. Okay, so Doctor Who. Doctor Who's been going on for 50 years. Okay, 50 years. And it has time travel. It's about time travel. It's about an alien in a box who time travels throughout space and time. It's been going on for 50 years. Um, and as you can tell, and the reason why that works, because at this point, I think Doctor Who never cared about continuity. Um, well, to be fair, it started in the '60s, so that's back when you didn't have to care about continuity. And even then, I've always considered Doctor Who it's a comic book on TV because it has very comic book tropes of like, oh, you meet a villain and then he comes back from the dead a dozen more times and has another scheme of the year. Um, and it's fun, and because and the reason why we like it is because when it has good episodes, it deals with morality, life, all the good moral lessons and stuff, and it has good characters. We love the Doctor.
Yeah.
The companions are hit and miss. They're hit and miss. Um. Anyway, Red's on my Twitter talking. He's talking about Cell Cath, who's on TCW. I don't know. That
Continue, continue.
Anyway, right, but okay, so when the reboot happened, Doctor Who tried to be a little more arcy. Each season had a bit of an arc. Every Doctor had an arc.
Hmm.
Then Moffat came. Davies left, and here's the thing: Davies, with the first showrunner, he didn't do much. I mean, he did a lot for Doctor Who, but when I say he didn't do much, is that he sort of stayed within the boundaries of Doctor Who. Like he didn't shake up stuff.
Yeah.
And then when Moffat came, he really just shook up the core of the continuity. Like he's like retconned things from 30 years ago. He added these new
Ooh,
things.
yeah.
And his first season actually was pretty good. It's his second season that got a little that got way convoluted in terms of like time travel and people meeting each other in the past and the future. And then by the time season 7 came, he just started repeating himself again, like certain story
Yeah.
tropes of his. Like that's been Moffat's big problem, and if Sid Part 2 is listening to this, he knows this as well. Moffat is he repeats himself a lot of like Moffat tropes by the time you're done. Like oh, that's a Moffat trope. We'll be doing that again from this. Oh, it's just a rehash of
Mhm.
this. And it doesn't. That's the problem with Moffat. He just does it again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And to the point where now he got rid of deaths because oh yeah, by the way, fan service for Moffat because Moffat is both fan servicey and continuity crazy. Moffat loves his companions, like his OC character, way too much. At the point where he pretty much had the Doctor go out of his way to save this one person, and the only reason he did it was because Stephen Moffat created this character. The Doctor, who has had thousands of companions, or not thousands, hundreds
That's a
of,
great. That's a great set.
and
Thank
then
you.
for this one character who Moffat created, the Doctor just goes out of his way to save him and pretty much destroy all of his moral credibility, everything the Doctor's ever said, just to save this person.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that right there is a big reason why I think a lot of stories become so unsalvageable, and that is you have no suspension of disbelief anymore. For example, in a recent the recent fairy tale chapters, it was played up that a character was dead. They said he was dead. He spiels out, "I wanted to." He goes on this whole speech about how he wished he could have had a life with his one friend and started a family with her. And then, literally 2 chapters, he comes right back and he's alive. And the issue is, I expected that. I knew he was going to come back. So when you have a story that you expect these things, why is there any point in reading them? It only
Oh,
it keeps there is no reason for us to continue reading if we know exactly what's going to happen and there is no tension. If that tension is gone, you've lost all momentum for your story.
and you know what's worse? It's when a writer falls in love with his own characters, and I mean that like a character
Yeah.
he created to the point where he can't let go. I know a few
Yes.
people who are kind of like that. Ooh, Red's gonna might debate me on this one. Dave Filoni, he's a bit like that with Ahsoka. To be fair, he did create. That's why he didn't. Spoiler alert, people. He didn't kill her off at the end of Rebels, or at least we don't think he did. Now she's probably alive, but like Dave, like I don't think he can kill off Ahsoka. I really don't think he can do it.
Yeah.
Because that's his baby. That he created her. I don't think George was involved in his creation. I think that was a Dave decision. I know George Lucas was involved in the resurrection of Darth Maul, which I think actually worked out for the better
Yeah.
in that regard. But people debate that all the time, so I won't get into that too much. But I'll use Doctor Who again as an example because Moffat had that problem with his characters, especially the Doctor's companions who he created for him. Because you see, the Doctor, his whole thing about the companion is eventually they're going to leave him and have their own life because the Doctor's immortal, and they're not.
Yeah.
The Doctor can die, but
It's the same thing with Spice and Wolf.
But
She's gonna be with different people because she's immortal.
right, but when Moffat came, and Davies is definitely guilty of this too but I don't think to the degree Moffat is. Um, it's because Moffat, like the Doctor acts as this as the one and only person they've ever had as a best friend. But if you watch the show for 50 years, you're like, what happened to all these other people? You've had this person, Sarah Jane, um, Mel, Lucy Miller, all these people, and yet for some reason, Moffat, you're writing the Doctor as if this is the only companion the Doctor's ever had, and your soulmate, your love life, and your blah 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 blah. And that really starts derailing the show, and to the point where the plot just revolves around this one character, which it's not supposed to.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I want to bring up, kind of branching off of that, there's another big point I want to make in a little bit, but we'll stick to this first, is basically when a story tries to change its genre, tries to change from its main genre. Of course, a story is always going to have subgenres, of course. But when it tries to take a subgenre and make it a main genre, that's potential for imminent failure.
Yeah, I've seen things grow in an odd way. You can say, I would. There are people who made the argument, and I kind of see it, that Star Wars, before you started growing a bit to becoming too sci-fi. Clone Wars, I think, fixed that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe '90s Star Wars a bit with like the Thrawn trilogy. I think we got away from that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a mix because they actually did hire science fiction writers, so politics and sort of like mechanics started coming into things, which is fine. That's cool. I like seeing how things work in Star Wars. And Kingdom Hearts, I think, also is one of those things that grew into an odd direction.
Yeah, there is a thing. Now, keep in mind. Let me elaborate on this more. There is such a thing as growing as a series. That's fine. What I mean is changing is just immediately stopping.
Oh, right.
And then just that is a good way to kill your series indefinitely.
Right. Well, to be fair, you can grow in ways that you probably shouldn't have, like Kingdom Hearts. At least in my opinion. Let's see. I'm trying to think of a series I watched that did that, but I'm not much of a series watcher, so Gotham, I guess technically. That tried to be very realistic, grounded police story, and then
it
gotten crazy.
From all the things I've heard from that show, I want to watch the rest of that show just to witness what happened that last bit of that season.
So you mean season 1?
Yes.
I saw season 1. It got crazy.
But I know a good series that did that. Girls of the Wild, again. I'm going to make a video about Girls of the Wilds eventually. You wait, people. I'm going to talk about it, but not right now. But I'm going to talk about this section of it. Girls of the Wild was at foremost an action story. It was an action. It had some drama, but at the center, it was action. Then that happened for 80 chapters. 120 chapters later, that wasn't exactly the case. It was mainly a drama after that, after it literally halts at the 80 chapter mark and doesn't get any action for a while, any consistent action for at least 40 or 50 chapters.
Wow, interesting.
it's the most interesting thing I've seen in a series to date. I still don't know how that thing is popular.
Fascinating. Yo, yeah, definitely. Can't think of anything on my end, sadly. I don't watch a lot of. Let's see. No, that's more of a growing. I
Um,
would. No, that's more of a growing thing. I'm trying to think of series I watch and like.
but kind of what I said, it kind of goes back to not knowing what it wants to be.
Right. Let's. Can we talk about the DC cinematic universe then? That doesn't know what it wants to be. Does it want to be Nolan Part Two? Does it want to
Now,
be?
now, 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 hold on a minute. We have to give the people what they're trying to do. It's obvious what they're doing. They want to do what's going to make them the most money, and that means they're being incredibly reactionary about it. At first, they wanted to make it a dark and gritty type thing, and then it just didn't make any sense that way. So I'm like, oh, let's make it funny. Forget making it consistent and actually character wise consistent. Let's just make it funny because that's totally what we need to do.
Yeah, let's make it funny. Batman and Superman having some wacky adventures. Uh,
I would watch that over what we got any day.
we might get that. I heard we're getting a new Justice League series. That's very kid-like. Who knows? Oh boy, yeah. That. Can I just ask you, like, can you even salvage after Batman versus Superman at this point?
let's let's start. I'm gonna make one point because I really want to tack this on, just to tack on another point. Then we'll get to the how do you salvage it.
sure,
Um,
sure.
and a good example for any of you Final Fantasy fans out there, Final Fantasy X fans in particular, you know that with the remaster, we got a little credits that gave us more content that alludes, oh, we'll make a sequel if you guys want it. And I'm like, no, because you all just spit in the face of what that game was about. And that's kind of like, and that's what I just hate. I hate when people almost well, you better touch on this, Joel. What if they didn't? What if it's the case they didn't understand what they were telling in the first place, and what they did at first was just a lucky break?
I can honestly feel that way about Kingdom Hearts sometimes. Oh,
Yeah,
Kingdom Hearts is a
I
bit like that. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I mean, I'm not one of those people who believe just because the creator made it doesn't mean it's okay. Like, I think a creator can spit in the face of his own creation. Um, there's some people like George Lucas are doing that. I don't. I don't think he did.
Boy, I really
Um,
wish we had Low on this because
I wish we had Red on that so he could debate me or
well,
not.
I would love to have Low and Red on this because I would love to hear what Low had to say in regards to the Kingdom Hearts stuff.
Well, that's true. I don't want to say Nomura has completely spit in the face of Kingdom Hearts,
Yeah,
but he's not sure what he's doing. I don't think he knows what he's doing. He's making it up.
yeah, especially to the point where he's not even addressing the simple parts of it, like how some of these characters are still in existence, even though in the time frame it's clearly not. Like the passage of time in Kingdom Hearts is absolutely ridiculous.
Oh god. Oh heck yeah. And um, I agree that I think Kingdom Hearts One was honestly just a lucky break. It was so they kept to a simple idea.
Mm-hmm.
Disney meets Final Fantasy, OC characters in the middle. Somehow I think Nomura got it to the point where he made a good story for these three characters. Cause I like the story. I like Sora, Riku, and Kairi.
Yeah.
I mean, Kairi barely gets anything to do, sadly. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
really. I don't have nothing for her, sadly. She's kind of the plot device. She's a
Yeah.
plot device. I hope she gets more to do in three.
I hope so too.
I think
Because now
she's
that you mention it, yeah, she's really that very much of a plot device. She doesn't have too much of a character.
and I could go into an entirely different thing where I would want to ask you, Cole, if Sora is a tech. Could you count Sora the Gary Stew? Um, I
That's a
think
discussion for another time.
Oh
But
god, but I think that the idea was simple.
Now, to be fair, I don't want to hate on Nomura. He has made some other good stories, but the thing is, he's been with this series and not being able to stretch his legs for a long time. That's where his strength is in the Final Fantasy series. He lets himself stretch.
Nomura, Lucas, even Roddenberry, Gene Roddenberry for Star Trek's a whole nother thing. Roddenberry's definitely his own little his ideology and his kind of control.
You know what I'll give Nomura? He's passionate about it, at least. I'll give him that.
I think Lucas is passionate to a point.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not getting into that discussion.
Yeah.
I know about Lucas oversight.
And here's something I can't believe we haven't talked about.
Right.
Do you think Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man film franchise, was unsalvageable?
Are we talking about which one? Are we talking about Raimi?
Yeah, Raimi.
No, I honestly don't. I don't think any of them. I think none of them. I think both were. I think both could have continued on. Honestly.
Yeah, I think Amazing Spider-Man more so. Raimi would have been a bit more difficult, though.
No, I think you could have kept on. I don't think you would have made good. I think you just would have made the same thing over and over and over again. But I think you just could have gone on. I think the thing is, Raimi's just so simplistic and can keep going. Amazing Spider-Man 2, well, stuffed a whole bunch of stuff in. I never saw any Amazing Spider-Man movies, but I've heard the stories. Well, it stuffed so much in, the potential it had for the future, it could have kept going. And I think if you just had streamlined it a little bit more, focused more on certain things, you could have gone on full steam ahead.
Here's a good question that's still on this subject. When is it okay? And this is just when is it okay to build up to stuff, but also tell your own story?
I think that when you have a story that stands enough on its own that you can still feel complete while building up to stuff. Like, okay, I need to think. Star Wars A New Hope isn't a good example because that film didn't even know it was getting a sequel.
I would argue Return of the Jedi is like that.
Return of the Jedi, Lucas was done. There was no Episode 7 in the world.
True.
Well, there was. There were always things.
There was potential. Well, I'll say this: there was potential for it. Maybe Empire Strikes Back.
Well, Empire Strikes Back, I think they knew they were getting a sequel because that was back. That was back when George wanted to do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah,
9,
but
10,
there was
12.
there was a singular story. There was a single story there, and it was about Luke's growth.
Yes, that was true. Although it didn't end on a cliffhanger.
Even ending on a cliffhanger, it can still be a single story. It can still feel like a complete. Well, I think that depends.
It doesn't end on a happy note.
Yeah.
I would say that. Okay, let's use an example.
Oh wait, I got a good example. Avatar: The Last Airbender.
What are we talking about?
Season 3.
Are we talking about the "Where's My Mother" thing that never got anywhere?
Where's My Mother? The energy bending part.
Where's My Mother? Where's My Mother is too on the nose. I don't remember much about the energy bending, so I think that might be fine.
Yeah, the energy bending. I think season 2 of Avatar is where that gets expanded on.
Okay, I have to rewatch Avatar for a while. Well, that's kind of the thing is that I feel certain series are also hindered by the fact they don't know where they're going. Because the production-wise, they don't know where they're going.
Yeah.
The studio keeps messing with them. Like, Avatar is supposed to have 4 seasons. That's why, and
also 2 big examples: Batman v Superman and Fan 4 Stick.
Ooh, yes, that's the Fan 4 Stick. I haven't seen Fan 4 Stick, so I'm not going to talk much about it. But Batman vs Superman. The problem with that, we can also maybe bring in Iron Man 2 as well.
Yeah.
Although I kind of like Iron Man 2 more than Batman vs Superman. But that's just more on a character acting level. Batman vs Superman. There's so many problems with Batman vs Superman that just talking about the fact it's trying to set up stuff, I feel like isn't even really a problem because there's just so many other problems compiled on it that one problem is just so in the background. And
Yeah.
I know that's so weird because that's another problem is they're trying to shove all this stuff in.
And that's what I find weird about a lot of reviews I see for this is we're getting off topic, but I feel like they're almost think, oh, it's bad because they're setting out more stuff. No, not necessarily. That's one of the many problems behind that movie. Let's stick to Iron Man 2 for a second because Iron Man 2 almost feels like two separate movies. Like it's trying to tell the thing with the Whiplash story, and then it's trying to do the whole Avengers thing.
Right. I got a bit of that. I've only seen Iron Man 2 like fully once on TV, and I enjoyed it, but that's because it's on TV. But yeah, I agree with that because half of it's an Iron Man sequel, and the other part is an Avengers prequel.
Yes.
And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. I think a good movie that does that maybe is Captain America, because that's both a Captain America film, but yet it's setting up Avengers in that Captain America is the thing that both kickstarts off the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, at
Yeah.
least from a historical standpoint, because
Yeah.
it got Hydra, you got the Tesseract, you got Captain America. But I think that works because the setup is integral to the plot.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to do it. You have to make the setup integral to the plot.
Yes. And that's the thing. If you're just side stories for the sake of side stories, doesn't amount to anything.
I think
If
it
you
works
want,
on television better, those side stories.
yes, I think so too. Well, part of it too is because it's dedicated to character development, and that's why I think most of the time in Avatar it works really well.
Having a side story, I think I'm not against side stories because
I'm not either.
I'm kind of doing that myself a little bit sometimes. But I would rather do that on an arc TV series where, especially if you do it where you have most of the stories like plot continuation, and then you have like maybe one filler episode,
Yeah.
but it's sort of like the cap off to that side story you've been setting up for a while.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You need room to breathe, and that's a good thing with a lot of manga. And while this is a kind of an issue with Naruto that I won't get too much into, but Naruto didn't have a lot of room to breathe, and that while that story wasn't unsalvageable, it detracted from it quite a bit. So if you have no room to breathe, I can see that leading to some derailment.
That's my problem with anime in general. I feel is that either a show goes one of two extremes. It's either and sometimes that works to its advantage. Don't get me wrong. I see it done really well, but it's a problem personally for me sometimes. Is that it's like plot. We're just going. We're going. We're keeping
Yeah.
the engine running. We're keeping the engine running. Or you do the Black Butler thing, season 2 especially, where it's like plot. 5 episodes of nothing with the main arc. It's just random adventures.
Yeah.
And if you have a good and that's the thing for me is that from a narrative objective standpoint, that's really derails it. Even
Yes.
though I like the characters and I just like seeing them do things, I can understand why objectively I don't think that's the best course of action.
Yeah.
It's just filler.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't like the characters, that just makes it worse.
Yeah. Now fillers can be justified if they're used for character development.
Mm-hmm.
And developing towards bigger stuff. You can do filler, but still do setting up toward the main plot. That's possible.
Oh, exactly. I'm sorry I bring up my own stories. I'm such a self-plugging person today. Like for my Kingdom Hearts series, I'm doing episodes 1 through 3 are pretty much all the Destiny Island story and the first Traverse Town level.
Mm-hmm.
But then the fourth episode, it's back on Travis Town, and I'm dedicating an entire episode just to Sora training with the Keyblade and like learning his magic, and that didn't happen in the game because you just have to go to the next world, gotta go to the next world. But I'm taking
the thing is,
time
you
off
do the training in the game.
Well, that too, but I'm taking time off to just show Sora, hey, this is how you use this Keyblade thing. And, do some self-doubt stuff, maybe. It sounds better when I actually execute it. But
here's an idea that I want to run by you, Joel. When is what I think a good example of a show getting or long-running narrative, for example, getting to the point where it's derailed to all the hell, is when you can't even understand why the characters are doing anything. Maybe it's not even and maybe it's not even that they're written well. It's just they're so out there that you don't understand what on earth they're trying to do. You feel like you're leagues below them, and you don't understand. You don't understand their plight.
Oh, yeah, Once Upon a Time does that all the time. We have a character who pretty much flip-flops every season between being heck, every episode, between being a... Oh, yes. Between being good and being evil. Like, one season's like, oh, I think he's finally gonna be the good guy now. He's finally learned his lesson. And then the next season, season 4, like, they completely backtrack on his character, and it's like, oh, nope, I'm evil again. I enjoy being evil. I'm the bad guy. To the point where it's like, oh, like, you people are going back and forth all the time.
And I'm going to say something. I'm going to make a statement here, people, and I would love for people to counteract my statement here. That's part of the reason I had a hard time getting involved with a lot of Superman stories. Is he always felt so iconical that I never saw what was interesting about him. I never could get the interesting points sold to me because he always felt so larger than life that I couldn't ever hope to see him in any relatable way. And now that I've seen different things, I know that's not true.
Have you read All-Star Superman?
No.
You should read All-Star Superman. Grant Morrison wrote it. I heard it's great.
Yeah.
Well, okay, here's the thing. I'm okay with having people to look up to. I think that's the point. That's the point of Superman. You're supposed to look up to him. He's not supposed to come down to our level. We're supposed to go up to his.
Yeah.
And I think that's the good thing. I think you need characters like that. And I think
you also need to understand their cause too.
Right. Well, I think there was a quote Steve said, and I'm gonna want to find it. I'm gonna find something. Hang on. Christopher Reeve. Here we go. Hang on. Christopher Reeve quote. Hang on. I did a good quote from Christopher Reeve, who did something about. He said something about Superman, and I want to find it because it's so good. Here we go. This is a good one. What makes Superman a hero is not that he has power, but that he has the wisdom and the maturity to use that power wisely. From an acting point of view, that's how I approach the part. And I think that's a good thing to think about Superman. And that there was another quote which I can never find. Steve had it on his Facebook.
I have a really good. I have something I want to bring up, Joel.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Can I say the quote first though before you?
Sure. Say it.
And it pretty much goes by him saying about Superman that the thing about Superman that makes him great is when he talks about truth, justice, and the American way. Those aren't words to him. He means that. And I think that's the thing about Superman that people don't get, that he means truth, justice, the American way. He is that shining beacon, you know. That's Superman, and I'm sure there's more to him than that, and I'm not saying it because I don't study that kind of comic books, but I think that's what makes Superman Superman. He is, you know, that kind of icon we can look up to. He is the hope. He is the eternal optimist.
Yeah.
He's like Captain America, or at least the MCU Captain America.
And
or Captain America's like him.
But don't you agree that can easily derail the story if you don't see them as a person also, or at least don't understand, or at least get on a sense of what these people are like. If you just get these are so larger than life people.
I think when it comes to the larger than life people, and I've heard people talk about this, that they work not because of them, because of the people around them, like Lois, Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, we also have Clark Kent as well. His disguise, his human persona, how he tries to act as a human. Ma and Pa Kent, of course.
Yeah. And isn't it the case that if those characters, you don't understand them, that you don't understand the icon?
Right. I think that's definitely a problem.
And that can definitely lead to a series losing any sense of steam. What was I going to say? I had a really... Oh, yeah. Joel, this is something I'm seeing a lot more nowadays, and I'm starting to worry that it's only going to get worse as we move forward. Do you think marketing can kill a story?
Ooh, yeah. Yes and no. I know that's a cheap answer. Yes, if you follow marketing, if you're one of those people who is very sensitive to the marketing, and you if you are a person who goes into a movie believing in the marketing and believing that the marketing is what you want.
Hmm.
If you are like me, who doesn't care about the marketing, who, while loves watching the trailers, goes into a movie with open eyes to anything, and who goes into the expectation of, as long as it's good, I don't
Yeah,
care, then no, it won't kill it. But if you're like, I think this is the Iron Man 3's, this is why probably people don't like Iron Man 3 that people just don't
yeah,
understand. Because they thought, oh, it's Iron Man versus the Mandarin, it's a scary costume villain, and then it wasn't, and then it works so for Iron Man 3 because that's the whole point of Iron Man 3
yeah.
is that the Mandarin was created by us. We created the Mandarin because of our own fears and terrors and all that other good stuff that Red likes to talk about. If he were here right now, I'm going to try my best to represent him. But the marketing didn't necessarily. It, I don't want to say kill Iron Man 3 from a story perspective, but it probably helped create that segment of people who don't understand and don't like Iron Man 3 because they were promised something else.
Yes, and I think that I don't want to hold that on a story level, but I can see that derailing a story so much that we have so much preconceived. There's a word for it. We have perceptions of what a story is going to be like, and then we go in and it's nothing like we show. I think there's every possibility that that's what the author thinks it is,
Mm-hmm.
but it actually is something entirely different. I think that's possible.
Marketing has killed stories also because of just. I don't want to say marketing killed Batman or Superman because that movie killed itself long ago.
Well, marketing killed it in that people saw most of the movie already.
That too, marketing definitely killed Amazing. No, I don't know if it killed Amazing Spider-Man though.
I don't. It was
Two,
probably a contributing factor.
probably. Wish Ray were here. He defends that movie a lot better than me. I've never even seen it. Definitely we knew what we were going into, getting in. I think a good example, while not killing it necessarily, definitely created a bit of flashback would be Godzilla 2014. Because the marketing for that film marketed that film as Godzilla being this evil, destructive, apocalyptic creature who was going to kill us all. Godzilla in that movie, the hero. He's a straight up hero. He's not like a goody goody two shoes hero, but he's definitely a sympathetic character and the good guy to an extent. And that film focuses way too much on the Mutos. But when you look at the trailers and you watch the trailers aren't telling you what the movie's about.
Yeah. Um. Now that we've gotten pretty deep into this, Joel, I think we need to answer the one question that I think a lot of writers ask themselves when they get to this point. How do you salvage some of your stuff?
You have one of two options, maybe three if I can think of creative stuff. One, you take what you already have and you just go straight for it. You unapologetically just go for it. You just give into the insanity.
Yeah.
Two, this is something probably Doctor Who's going to do when Chris Chibnall takes over. You ignore everything that the last guy who screwed up did, and you just start fresh, and you pretend it didn't even exist.
Yeah.
And you don't even harken back on it. You don't look at the past. You pretend the past didn't even exist, which is probably what Batman vs. Super, which is probably what DC's going to do post Snyder. Because that's the thing about Snyder. He thinks that these things happened, even though they didn't happen.
Yeah.
Which is why when probably Superman comes, he's going to be like, oh, my sacrifice did. Like, that's like, look at Batman. That's the whole point. Batman thinks the sacrifice happened and his faith in humanity has been restored. And they're going to act like that. They're not going to pretend. They're not going to try and fix it. They're just going to act that way, which is sort of option one of just going straight forward with it, but also ignoring it.
There is also the option, like Steve mentioned back in the Arrow Season 3 days, if you acknowledge in universe how bad everything was.
You can do that too. Oh, actually, that's how Once Upon a Time should do it too. Yeah, you do that. Just somebody called out
Like you could spin a good plot that maybe there were contributing factors leading to these decisions, and that can be really good if spun in the right way. That's an option.
or you just have an episode where somebody calls somebody out on their you know what.
Exactly.
And whether or not they change their you know what after that episode is another factor, but call them out on it. Just
Yeah.
say, you have been flip flopping every other week. You have just lost all your moral compass. You're a whiner now for some reason. And just do that.
I have to wonder too, Joel. This is a question that. What was it? Oh, crap.
How will Kingdom Hearts salvage itself?
No, not that. It was going to be something. Arrow was what spawned the idea, but it's interesting. When you get stories that basically do what we said you do. You either acknowledge it. Also, I'm going to say something else. Calling attention to the ridiculous does not make something less so. Actually, give a reason for that and actually build on that. That's me spitballing. Anyways, I remember what I was going to say.
Okay, sorry.
If you are going, do you think if they're going to try to salvage anything, do you think they should they jump to drastic conclusions and doing drastic things to certain characters, or do you think that's the wrong option?
I think that sounds like the wrong option to me, because that just seems like big leaps of logic. Drastic measures never lead to anything good. The only drastic measure I honestly think that could work is the whole seasons A through C were all a dream. Like, and some TV shows have done that for gags. Like, there was one episode of Married with Children, like, where there were people who got pregnant, and then this person lost their job, and these big status quo shakeups, and then at the end of that season, like, it was all a dream. None of it happened. There've been a couple of shows that have done that for laughs, or maybe because that wasn't the way they wanted the show to go.
I have a crazy drastic idea. Bear with me, Joel. What if you have a series that isn't making any sense, okay?
Yeah.
And you basically spin it in the way that these characters become these ruthless a-holes or just the terrible people that they are becoming. And have it end on a sad note, but have it end on a guy who actually makes sense.
That could salvage some of your stuff, I think. That could, it would still come out of probably nowhere, but it probably would.
Unless you build to it.
Probably, but I don't trust some of these writers.
Just consistently be bad about it, but have the one guy make sense, and then just at the end, oh yeah, all of that was bullshit. Don't do any of this.
True, but I probably don't trust these writers to be that clever.
I wouldn't do that either, but some of them have probably thought of that when they've gotten to that point.
Another thing you can do is almost have what I call the progressive reboot. And by that I mean you don't reboot, yet your story gets in a way where it's sort of like it'd be like if Arrow's entire family just all died, and then Arrow starts all over again. There's a new crime boss in town. Star City's back to where it was, and it's almost like we're moving forward, but we're rebooting and starting all over again at the same time.
That's basically what Arrow Season 4 did.
So, okay. Like, you going back to those original themes, and it's like you're just rehashing the first season. It's almost, it's a little like, nah, I don't want to bring TFA into that.
I think what you're trying to say is go back to your roots.
Exactly. Which kind of TFA did do, too much. A little bit. But yeah, if you go back to your roots, you just sort of start over, but you don't reboot.
Yeah. It's a semi-reboot. It's a new story within the series itself.
It's kind of like TFA, I guess, in a way, because you're semi-rebooting, but you're still going forward.
Kind of
Although,
like the Transformers movies, even though it's a really poor example because those movies are terrible.
yeah,
But
yeah, I would love a reboot for the full-on reboot for those.
I would too, and we're probably never going to get one, sadly.
No, not until Michael. I would love it. Yeah, Transformers. Can't necessarily think of anything else that's done that. Well, because Days of the Future Past is the time travel thing, but I'm talking about full on no time travel, no reboot. Just you're still moving forward linearly.
Yeah.
Doctor Who might have done that a couple times. To various degrees.
So basically, I think what this all comes down to is there are many ways to lose your series, and very few ways to fix it. So if you're writing a series, be mindful of what you're doing. Get critiques. Get him.
Have a
Try to
plan.
have a plan. At least don't overplan your stories because that can lead to derailing it. But
Have a general outline of what you want to do. Like,
yeah,
say, I want season 1 to be like this. I want season 2 to be like this. I want season 3 to be like this. I want season 4 to be like this. And you can stop. Set up then, and then you can say, okay, season 1, I'm going to plant these seeds for season 2. I'm going to also plant a seed maybe for season 4. And then, like Gravity Falls and Avatar, for the most part, I think Avatar might have, at least we talked to Red, kind of wrote itself into a corner by the ending there. But Avatar and Gravity Falls, especially Gravity Falls, planned it out in a way where I don't know how much they planned, but they planned enough to where it feels like everything lines up perfectly. All the cards line up.
yeah.
The dominoes are perfectly lined. And then you have Kingdom Hearts, which is like Nomura's just making stuff up.
Yeah.
He had the first one was a cohesive story, and then by the rest of it, like, okay, you're making stuff up now, aren't you?
Yeah.
So yeah,
So do you have anything more thoughts, Joel?
not that I can think of now, although I'll probably think of a bunch of stuff later.
Yeah. Red and I might do a part 2 of this video because I want to get him on to talk more about the Arrow side of things. But
Is it going to be just derailing part 2 with Red? Just do two separate.
derailing part 2 with Red. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Talk about other stuff too, like maybe more Star Wars. I tried my best, but I didn't know enough information.
But we'll see. But this actually turned out really well.
Oh yeah, I had a lot of fun. This was a special episode, and today was my birthday, so yay.
Happy birthday, man.
Yay! Birthday podcast for me. Although I'm gonna probably post this tomorrow, so my birthday June 30th, so yeah.
Yep.
So until next time, I guess I'm JID123.
And I'm Nero Cole telling you, may the force be with you.
Always, unless you derail it. Good night.